Everyone. I am joined here today with Michael Marino. He is the writer-director of a film that just released on the channel called Disquietude. It's a wonderful contained horror film that takes place entirely in an anechoic chamber as an artist attempts to record her song until she gets trapped inside and quickly descends into panic and insanity and all of that fun stuff. Michael, welcome to the show and the channel, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's such a pleasure. It's so exciting, this program you're doing and having all these great filmmakers and films on here, and it's an honor to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's great to profile like one of your other sides of your roles in the industry here. Because not only as a wonderful prolific writer and director of short films, you're also an agent that works with many talented people as well. So it's I'm really excited to chat with you about your process here.
Thank you. No, it's fun to dive into this side. Obviously, agent first and foremost. That's my day to day. That's my life constantly. But, filmmaking is why all of us get into this, is the love of the craft. So to still touch on it and to have it still be a part of my life is very fulfilling.
I think just to kick this off, I'd love to hear about some of the inspiration that you had kind of behind the film and like, why you were so interested and passionate about this particular project.
For this one, it goes way back. It was in film school that I first had the idea for it. So we're going a decade ago. And it, I was someone who kind of suffered from anxiety, like a lot of people, but it took me a long time to get through that. And I still have it today, again, like a lot of people do. And I just felt like I needed a little more of an outlet in terms of talking about it and expressing it. Like already, I was finding myself in film school who I am as a human being, and this is what I love to do, and this is what excites me, what makes me feel fulfilled, and what makes me feel more confident as a person. And I guess I just wanted to find a way to express that a little bit in a story, not just uh, feeling more confident in your work in the end. Spoiler alert. Um, but also to really highlight like the fear and it, how it can be such a horrible experience having anxiety, how it can be so horrifying having that self-doubt and that questioning of yourself.
Like I think it's such an interesting choice that you took too, that like we hear bits and pieces of her, playing the song kind of early on, but we don't hear the song and you play the credits on silence. It's it's a cool choice to make that it's like
Thank you.
it makes the viewer kind of, put themselves in her shoes, very much along for the ride. Um, do I mean it's such a specific location. And it's if you've ever spent time in an anechoic chamber, you know how weird it just the pressure, I don't know, it's like a weird thing that it feels on your ears and everything.
Have you been in one?
I have, yeah. It's
It's bizarre. It's a weird experience, and it, it's both creepy and meditative. It's never are you so, is it just so quiet?
yeah, and it's weird how uncomfortable you get so fast. Like it's not it doesn't take long in there before you're like I kind of want to get out of here.
That's what's great for the short. You don't have to really wait for a full feature length to get anxiety. You're getting anxious in there within 30 seconds. Some people easily, it's a couple minutes. You're like, I'm done. I need out. I need to hear life in the world again.
So how did you land on a location like this? Like had you visited one? Did you already have this idea and then, you went to a friend's recording and were like, ah, like what was like how'd you get here?
That's a great question. I want to say, kid you not, it was something like Reddit or BuzzFeed where I learned what an anechoic chamber was, and that idea just stuck with me. And I just found it so fascinating. Anechoic chambers, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a place where there's zero sound in there. So in everyday life, wherever you're sitting right now, you can probably hear noise going on in the background. Maybe it's a fan, it's the light, it's cars outside, maybe it's people talking. And your brain's good at filtering that out. But in an anechoic chamber, you don't get any of that input. There's nothing. It is dead silence. So your brain really freaks out by that silence. Where you're used to having hundreds of sound inputs, you now have zero besides your own body. So your brain really starts to work in overdrive. And learning about that and people's different experiences in anechoic chambers, whether it be hearing weird sounds, hearing voices, hearing footsteps, or even seeing things because of that sensory deprivation. I just found all that really interesting and an interesting tool to really talk about yourself because it's such an isolating place. So for anxiety, it felt like a perfect uh, tool to use to tell that kind of story.
Oh, definitely. And I'm glad you brought up kind of the specifics of how an anechoic chamber like works and what it's like. Because in this short, sound is just such a pivotal role in kind of like how you crafted this story. I'm curious what some of like the challenges or things that you kind of had to keep in mind as you were, on like in production on it, on set. Was there anything that you kind of like had to keep reminding yourself like this is this is what the sound is going to be like. It's not here now. It's even less here now because we're inside of an anechoic chamber. Like, how did you approach that?
Exactly like that, where so much of it's going to be done in post production. So you kind of have to remind yourself and the actress on set and everyone else, like, here's this beat where you're going to hear this sound, you're going to hear this then. And part is trying to recreate it a little bit on set, at least just the timing, whether it's just giving a vocal cue so you know you just heard this, react this way. But it leaves a lot of creative wiggle room. You have to be open to interpretation on set because the sounds aren't actually there. But it also lets you play around with it after the fact and cater those sounds to how she's reacting. If in my mind, originally, the piece of audio was more scary, like jumps
Mhm.
at you. But then the reaction we kind of capture on set is more fearful or like disgust from what is felt. Then we can cater the sounds to feel like that. So there's a lot of liberation in that way.
When you started the project and like when you were talking to Yair about it, did you guys kind of like have a moment where you set some goals that you wanted for the project? You've mentioned a few times like the theme obviously being very close to your chest on this one. Did you guys have anything kind of beyond that you were like, oh, we'd really like to accomplish like this?
I think for us, I mean, if I can speak for him, it was really just we'd love it to either affect people or people talk about it. So
Mhm.
whether it be you have some kind of visceral reaction to the kind of horror going on, the psychological aspects, or if you talk about it, where with the ending, you kind of have your own interpretation of what it all means.
Mhm.
If you have either of those, or even better, both of those, to me, it's a success beyond what I could hope for. To have it have another life these years later is such a treat and fun as well, because looking back at it, it almost feels again kind of repeating of that story where
Mhm.
for her, she's struggling with this art she's making, and it seems like it's all going wrong inside, but in the end, everything's kind of okay. It's funny how that still speaks to me. Where going back and rewatching it all these years later, I'm someone who really struggles looking at their own work. So I'm watching it going, oh God, I would have done that differently. I would have
Yeah.
done this. But in the end, you have to remove that anxiety, that doubt, and appreciate for what it is. And I'm still very proud of this short, of what we accomplished on our
Yeah.
budget.
I
It's
mean, I have to, not to blow too much smoke here, but like it's a it's a fantastic concept in a great location to try and do something on a limited budget where it doesn't feel like it. Like it's such a unique place, but when you boil it down to that producer kind of hat on, it's like it is one character, one location. you know,
Yeah.
limited kind of like box that you're playing in, but it doesn't feel like it, which I think like you guys hit the nail on the head from that standpoint. Um,
Thank
but,
you.
but it speaks very, very much to like the way that you should be approaching things, especially as like you said, your first one outside of film school. It's like you don't have the resources, you don't have the career yet, you don't have the network yet. So like find those unique angles that you can take to be like, no, we're gonna own this one aspect that we can control and make sure it's the best version of that. I think you guys did a great job with that.
Thank you so much for saying that. And it really takes a village when you're doing this. So many great collaborators on this, especially the production design team, because we didn't shoot it in a chamber. We built that on set with all that foam, which
Wow.
all a part of them of putting that all together and making it so we could still adjust the walls and the lengths and have it still feel like you are in a chamber. That was probably one of our biggest obstacles is let's try and not look like we're on a super tiny budget. And
Yeah.
for you to say that makes me so happy.
I
'Cause,
mean, you've shattered the illusion for me now. I assumed you guys shot it in a real anechoic chamber, which I was like,
that is a
that's impressive.
set that is with three walls. So even though if you shoot it and or you watch a short and you look and it seems like it's a four walls, no, one of those walls we just flew around so we could do reverse coverage. So you see that same wall a couple different locations, couple different ways.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll be going back to rewatch it now to see if I can catch
there you go,
that.
a little BTS.
Oh man, I love that. So my favorite thing to ask at the end of these interviews, just because I think it's always so interesting and everyone you take something new away from every project. But what was one thing that kind of really stuck with you during the making of this film, that either you've taken and you've continued to work with in the industry, or like every once in a while if this project comes up conversation, like your mind immediately goes to like, oh, I really loved like this.
That's a great one, and I feel like I'll cop out by saying there's multiple different answers. One, and this is the totally cheesy one, but it's just taking away that yes, you can do it. And I'm not just repeating in terms of it's a first short film outside of film school, but also in terms of how the story works, where it's self-doubt of like, can I do this? Can I make this? So it felt like I was a little bit on that journey as well in that chamber of, all right, I can make this. It's going to feel at points like it's not working, but we can do it. So to have that done really gave that confidence. You know what? I can do this again. I can keep doing it. And that also plays into that theme as well of
Mhm.
instincts. It's not overthinking of it. And that's something I'd also learn to do differently on the next project afterwards. Because when you are a young filmmaker, you don't always trust your gut. You're gonna go with things like, oh, I think they'd like this. I think a festival would like that. And you can end up compromising it a bit. So I think after going through that process, just knowing that sometimes you just have to work on an instinctual level. And that's oftentimes what ends up being the most rewarding things is when it's like, you know what? I can't even explain why I think this works. I just know deep down it does, and I need to commit to that and trust that. And I think you'll be rewarded in the end if you do.
That's amazing. I think that's incredible advice. I know I'll try and remember that next time myself. Um, you know what? I think this is a great place to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing the journey of this film, for sharing the film with the channel and everyone who was able to watch it. Anyone who's watching this and either has seen it or hasn't seen it, you can go back and watch the short film right now, Disquietude. It's there. See if you can spot the reused wall. Just as like that fun Easter egg. But thank you again. Yeah, so much, Michael. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for this invite, being part of this. You're just such an awesome person to know and work with, and I'm so grateful. And thank you to everyone who's a part of this journey as well. Yair, Luke, Victoria, Trevor, Adam, our sound engineer, everybody who was a part of this. It takes a village, and so I'm just eternally grateful.